Ladies and gentlemen, yay, we're finally starting. Thank you so much for joining us. I am so pleased to welcome you all to the first session of the Africa Hydrological Conference. My name is Faith Sternlieb. I am Associate Director for Global Engagement with a team called the Internet of Water within the Center for Geospatial Solutions at Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA. Before we get started, I want to offer our sincere gratitude and appreciation to our hosts. To the Egyptian Ministry of Water and Irrigation, we thank you. To AMCO, we thank you. To the World Meteorological Organization, who is hosting together with AMCO the first Africa Hydrological Conference. We are honored to be a part of this partnership. For this first session, we are partnering with, you can see our partners up here, the Permanent Joint Technical Committee for the Nile Waters, the International Center for Resources and Global Change, the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, with the Environmental Law Institute, and the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. This may look like a hodgepodge of logos to you, but to us, they are critical partners. They are who make this session and our work possible. And there are people, and there are experts, and there's collaboration behind these logos. We take them very seriously. We do not take them for granted. So I want to make sure to thank our partners with the utmost gratitude. So this is part one of two parts of this session. So I'm just going to go over briefly both parts. Our first part is 9:30 to 11. We're going to have a break. And then our next second part is going to be from 11:30 to 1. For the first part, we're going to hear a talk on good practices and lessons learned in data sharing in transboundary basins. And we're going to hear an esteemed panel, people who are working in the field with water data, sharing their experiences on water data exchange and water information exchange across many different perspectives and sectors. In our second part, we're going to talk about the current state of the World Meteorological Hydrologic Observation System and future plans. We're going to have an introduction to mapping on water data management and exchange. And we're going to get into small groups, and maybe we'll sit at your tables, maybe we'll do grouping in another way. And we're going to, what we want to do with this engagement exercise is hear from all of you. So we're going to share our experiences from the panel in the first half, and then we would love to hear from you in the second half. So for this part one session, we really want to engage all of you. You are the experts. We are the experts, you are the experts. We are stakeholders, you are stakeholders on dialogue about experience and opportunities in water data. We want to explore, what does water data diplomacy mean? How can we use it to better understand sharing experiences about water data and water data sharing and exchange? We want to consider how water diplomacy approaches can enhance water data management systems and then foster and expand existing and new partnerships. So this is a very new partnership. The partners in this session, these are new partners for us and for the group, and we want to expand that partnership as well. It is essential to expand the partnerships, to build relationships in order to share data. A few logistical notes about the session. This session is being recorded and live streamed to enable online participation. So hopefully we get some questions also from our online participants. French and Arabic interpretation channels are available, and we have headsets in the back. We plan to take a group picture, so stick around right before the network break. And more importantly, to stick around for the engagement in the part 2. Please complete the session exit poll. We have QR codes, so if you just take your phone out, you can take a look at the QR code, and then we would love to get your feedback on the session. And we really are interested in what you have to say and what you know, and we are interested in your experiences. So please, please participate throughout. So I come from the Center for Geospatial Solutions. Our mission is to enable data-driven decisions for the greater good of land, water, and people. CGS, so we say, is a nonprofit founded in 2020 at the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. We work to help bridge gaps between policy and practice on the data front. So not only water data, the Internet of Water is focused on water data. CGS is focused on all data, all geospatial data. Organizations and decision makers across the globe are rising to meet urgent and complex environmental and social challenges, as you all know. And this is what we work to do, work with our partners to better understand those challenges and to come up with smarter and innovative solutions. So the Center for Geospatial Solutions and the Internet of Water joined forces in 2022. And what the IOW team at CGS does, we work in open water data, building technology, building community. You are our community. And services that make essential water data more discoverable, accessible, actionable, findable, you name it, transparent, open. We work with a wide range of water data producers, water data users, including federal, regional governments, local communities, NGOs, the private sector, et cetera. We promote better water data for better water management. Today, we operate in North America and Africa and the globe. So why are we here? Internet of Water was, we were lucky enough to get a grant from the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, and that funding is coming through the President's Emergency Plan for Adaptation and Resilience. Over $3 billion annually to help countries strengthen their resilience. And we have a very small piece of that puzzle, a very small bucket within that $3 billion to work on open water data here in 3 pilot countries in Africa, in Ethiopia and Uganda, and in South Africa. So this project is called Data Access for Urban Climate Resilience in Africa for Early Warning Systems. And we are working, we have 3 kind of goals. One goal is to learn and to listen. That seems like a really simplistic goal, but actually there's a lot to learn from our partners and from the communities we work with. We will be organizing code sprints and build free and open source software with our partners from WMO and others. And we will work at doing some training on that software, with piloting that software in 3 different countries. So you wonder, the title might have been interesting to you, Water Data Diplomacy. What does that mean? And why do we need water data diplomacy? Better water data means better decisions, better preparedness, better adaptability, and more certainty. Integrating water data into water diplomacy informs policy and negotiation. It provides a scientific basis for agreements, enhances mutual understanding, and is critical for building trust. So let's break it down a bit. First, it's essential to establish environments where individuals and governments feel comfortable sharing their experiences, so in rooms like these, and their perspectives about water data without fear of repercussion or retribution. This openness leads to better understanding and more effective problem solving. Effective water data diplomacy involves uniting a wide range of water data creators and users, including governments, researchers, local communities, NGOs, private sector entities, and broad participation from gender and all age groups. This diversity ensures the multiple perspectives and viewpoints considered, leading to more comprehensive solutions. We must build long-term relationships rather than focus on short-term engagements. Long-term partnerships build trust and facilitate ongoing cooperation, which is crucial for sustainable water management. The goal for responsible and consensual data sharing isn't merely to increase the quantity of shared data. It's not to get more data. What we'd like to do instead is focus on sharing data responsibly, ensuring that all parties are informed and have given their consent. And this approach respects privacy, yes, security, enhances security, and it increases cultural awareness and protects cultural sensitivities. While enhancing the willingness and ability to share water data is a positive outcome, it is not the end. It is not the only measure of success. Other valuable outcomes include strengthened relationships, improved communication, and a deeper mutual understanding among all parties involved. So with that, we are going to hear from Dr. Komlan Sabana, who is a legal officer with the Secretariat of the Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Watercourses and International Lakes, serviced by the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. He leads the convention's engagement and accession processes in West and Central Africa and acts as the thematic lead of the sub-program area on the development of agreements and establishment of joint bodies. He has over 15 years of experience in the practice of international water law. So please welcome Dr. Komlan Sabana. This has it. Yeah. Do you want me to take this? Yeah.
Because
has
I
it
need,
all. What?
I need because I have
Your
my
notes.
notes in my notes on it. Okay.
Do you want me to hold this? I can hold it for you.
No, I can. It will be. Okay. That's
This is the only way it's going to happen.
no, that's fine. Then I will. So we can
Leave it here.
no, it's
Or
fine.
you want me to stay?
No, it's okay.
I can take it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And first of all, good morning to all colleagues, distinguished colleagues here in the room. So it's my utmost privilege to present this important publication that have been prepared by under the Water Convention Secretariat on good practices and lessons learned in the data sharing in transboundary basins. But before going deep in this presentation, maybe you could come back on a kind of reflection. Yesterday, when I was preparing this presentation, I was puzzled by a very basic question. Why do we countries need to share data to improve transboundary cooperation? And a very basic response came to my mind. If we do not have data, there is no cooperation. If there is no data sharing, that means no cooperation. Because countries need data to plan, to anticipate, to decide, to invest. And they need those data to have accurate decision to move forward in transboundary cooperation. So it's a really basic one, I would say, because I know that this room is full of people of knowledge and experience in the matter, but sometime another one told me, maybe to start, you need to come back on the basic. And no data, no cooperation. And here we are. So how this take place across the world? And in the frame of the Water Convention, the work that have been done first, as you know, the Water Convention Secretariat, I'll come back to that in a few minutes, have this mandate to support the countries on transboundary cooperation worldwide. It's a normative and institutional mechanism that we have under the UN. And one of the core work that we are doing, I work with our colleague from UNESCO, is to support or follow the process of the progress of transboundary cooperation regarding the indicator 652 on transboundary cooperation. And when it comes to that, so the last report was just released a few weeks ago, and there we have some kind of interesting fact. The first one is that only 43 countries out of the 153 countries sharing water report having operational cooperation agreement for the 90% of more of their shared waters, which is really a lot in terms of the way that we still have in front to reach the SDG by 2030. And among the top three challenges that countries are facing when it comes to support progressing in transboundary cooperation, the main challenge, we have data availability and we also have data sharing. So among the top three, you have these two. All of them are about data. And when it comes to the data per se, we do have as challenge comparability of data, of information, which are really big issues for the country, inadequate resources, the limited spatial coverage, and also the frequency of exchanges. So why at the Water Convention we engage in this? Because we have this mandate, as I mentioned, to support the countries on transboundary water cooperation. I don't want to spend, because I know many of you here know this, the 1992 UN Water Convention, which is one of the two UN conventions within the system of the UN. But just to mention that actually we are seeing a trend of countries acceding to this convention, notably from Africa. So we have more than 10, so 14 to be precise, countries that joined the convention since this global opening in 2016. And 12 from them, among those 14, are from Africa. And what's happened is that when those countries joined the convention, they revive a kind of dormant, I would say a dormant program area under the Water Convention, which is the monitoring and data sharing program area. Those countries came and say, our priority now is really to see how you can support us to work on the monitoring area, and also how to improve our data sharing. And this led to this publication that will be launched in 1 week now. So because the next week we will have the meeting of the parties in Ljubljana in Slovenia. And this publication is part of the discussion that happened since those countries joined the convention and started to ask about good practices and lessons learned in the data sharing transboundary basin. So you have actually this publication which came with a very diverse practices across the world. So we have 43 lessons learned supported by 78 case studies from the world, so the different regions of the world, highlighting the importance of data sharing in transboundary waters globally. So, given the matter of time, just to stress some key messages that have been some key messages that came from this publication. So among the key messages that we have, we can mention the fact that water management needs a timely, a targeted, and sufficient, valid, and reliable data. This is the first one. We also have the fact that data sharing needs an enabling environment, which is key. I will focus on one of the case studies in which I have been personally involved on this, and we can see that the fact to have a very enabling environment is really key to support a better data sharing. Groundwater data is also one of the main challenges that countries are facing, and therefore we have a specific key messages on this. We also have the build and common understanding of the functioning of the basin, which is key. Take a pragmatic and focused approach to monitoring, also important. The political will. The political will is essential, because sometimes data sharing is just kept at the technical level, but those case studies show us that if we want really to have, to keep going on the work on that, also to help the countries to trigger this cooperation based on data sharing, we need the political will. And then the involvement of all stakeholders, which is a really important, integrated approach in that regard, and also the collaboration across the different levels of disciplines. Et je vais passer en français, puisque nous avons une interprétation aussi avec le privilège d'avoir plusieurs langues. Malheureusement, je ne pourrais pas parler l'arabe, étant fils d'adoption du Sahel, un regret. Alors, je m'arrêterai en fait sur ce cas pratique qui est celui du sénégalo-mauritanien aquifer, Basin, qui est un des aquifères qui est partagé par 4 pays. Donc c'est un des cas qui était, sur lequel j'ai voulu me focaliser, mais vous avez effectivement une série de cas pratiques, donc je vous inviterai effectivement aussi à regarder à cette publication, aller dans le détail de tout ce qui a été fait dans le cadre de cette publication. Mais je vais me focaliser en particulier sur le travail qui a été fait dans le cadre donc, du dialogue régional sur le bassin sénégalo-mauritanien. Alors ce bassin qui est partagé entre 4 pays, la Gambie, la Guinée-Bissau, la Mauritanie et le Sénégal, reste une des particularités parce que, comme vous le savez, lorsqu'on parle des eaux transfrontières, le gap est encore plus grand que sur les eaux de surface. Et donc, depuis 2019, et dans la foulée de l'adhésion d'un pays qui partage ce bassin, notamment le Sénégal, en adhérant à la Convention en 2018, a posé comme un des priorités l'accompagnement effectivement du Sénégal, mais aussi de tous les pays qui partagent ce bassin, dans le développement d'un cadre régional de coopération sur ce bassin aquifère qui est stratégique pour les 4 pays. Il faut savoir par exemple que la ville de Banjul ou la ville de Bissau dépendent à 100% effectivement de ce bassin aquifère. Or can give you an okay. Okay.
Just continue where you were in English.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I just realized that many people don't have their headset. Donc, je m'excuse pour les collègues en français. So I will come back in English. I will come back in English to present. So this initiative on the Senegalo-Mauritanian Basin Aquifer, which is, I would say, one of the most in terms of recent experience when it comes to the transboundary aquifer in this region, was kind of really innovative. So what happened is that when Senegal joined the convention in 2018, they put forward the support to the country, so the Senegal, but also other countries, in terms of supporting them to strengthening the cooperation on this aquifer. And something is really interesting in this case that the lack of data sharing was a trigger to support to the trigger to the process. So I think this is really important because, of course, we have this, I would say, assumption that data sharing can sometimes be the blockages in terms of cooperating. But in this case, what we saw is like the fact that people cannot cooperate, they cannot have data to share on these really strategic water resources was the trigger. So they decided to have a platform to do that. So they started first by setting up what they call a regional working group. So it's a group composed by the representative of the 4 countries, which aim really to support the countries to start to exchange data and information regarding this aquifer that they do have. But also, one of the key lessons learned that came from this process is that when you consider, because one of the questions that we have during and supporting the country is that the trust is really key to make data sharing possible for the country. And the fact that they do have in place other river basin organizations that have been efficient, so notably the OMVG and the OMVS, was a kind of platform helping them to say, look, we will provide this regional platform for data sharing based on the experience that we have on the surface water. It's why they decided to have this regional working group that will be supported by those 2 river basin organizations. And today we have a kind of intra-basin cooperation to support those 4 countries in moving forward in this process. So they came along with this regional working group, and this was crystallized through a ministerial declaration that had been signed in 2021, back to our meeting of the parties. And in this ministerial declaration, the ministers entrusted this regional working group to further develop means for the data sharing, so either on quantity or also on quality, so they develop the means that can help them really to improve. So I think this is really interesting to see how the lack of data and the need to share data have been the trigger of the process to have established a platform, a kind of enabling environment to support data sharing.
I think that's part of...
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Betty. So really, we've gone from looking at the transboundary Nile Basin and the complexities there down to basins in other regions and at the national level, all the way down to the community level, and sort of the complexities that come along with not only sharing data with stakeholders, but also getting data back from stakeholders and creating the kind of platforms and forums that are necessary to understand the ways in which to communicate that data back and forth and really draw on all the various stakeholders that are on the ground working on water management and need to be informing these decision-making processes. So really valuable perspective. Thank you so much, Betty. So it is my absolute honor now to turn the floor over to Dr. Teheni. Dr. Teheni, I would like to go all the way up now to the Africa-wide level. And as chair of the MCOW Technical Advisory Committee, as well as from your broad perspective and experience leading international cooperation for the Ministry of Water here in Egypt, can you share with us what you think the role is of AMCOW in promoting data diplomacy throughout the continent?
Thank you very much, Jessica. You remember when we were preparing for this session, I first started by asking you, what do you mean by data diplomacy? For me, it was a new term, but when you think a little bit, you find that, yes, it should be called like this because data sharing is not an objective per se. We don't have an objective to share data. The data is an element or a tool to provide to the decision maker to make a decision. And this is where the secret comes of this new name or this new terminology. Yes, in Africa, we have two problems, actually. I don't think that in 2024, there is an issue in the modality of sharing. We share everything via WhatsApp, via email, on the cloud. Sharing is not a problem. It's whether you don't have the data or you don't have the trust to share the data. Those are the main elements. Let's be frank in this. Actually, this idea has been apprehended long time ago, since the establishment of the African Ministers' Council on Water. The AMCAO gave several functions, the African Union Summit gave several functions related to reporting and monitoring to the African Ministers' Council on Water. To monitor the progress in implementing regional and global water initiatives, to review progress in implementing the commitments for financial resources, and to consider information regarding progress in implementing intergovernmental agreements on rivers and lake basins. The issues of monitoring and reporting were elevated in the AU summit in Sharm el-Sheikh in 2008. And the heads of states and governments specifically called AMCAO to report annually to the summit on the state of the continent's water resources. From here came a system called WASMO. In this response, AMCAO developed the African water sector and sanitation monitoring and reporting system in 2016. This evolved into a water and sanitation monitoring and reporting system called WASMO, which we all know now. And this is a digital system that captures data on water and sanitation across the African Union member states, and it is open to public. And here I would like to acknowledge the presence of my colleague, engineer Ines, who is the focal point of WASMO here in the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation. And actually, she does a great job in this regard. What are the key features of the WASMO is it uses harmonized progress indicators, and it allows AMCAO Secretariat to monitor progress and report on the implementation of the AU commitment of water and sanitation. It also considers several continental and international commitments, including Sharm el-Sheikh commitment, Ngor Declaration, the Africa Water Vision 2025, and the Sustainable Development Goals. The WASMO, the special thing about WASMO is that it is the first ever continent-wide automated web-based system that exclusively captures data on water and sanitation across all member states of the African Union using harmonized progress indicators. Well, of course, this system has many, many challenges that we are facing. First of all, that we have serious data gaps. There are years of data gaps. And in order to monitor the progress, you have to have a baseline. And also to monitor the progress, you need to have a harmonized system. There is also a problem of incompatibility of data, especially on the transboundary level. If you, for example, say some information in the country X about a shared river basin, the country Y doesn't give the same information. And this mismatch is a problem. Also, there is a challenge in funding, because in order to do this task properly, you need to have stations, monitoring stations, well established, well maintained, to give periodical information timely and to be shared among all the member states. So also we have a challenge of capacity as well. All of this is very important to note in order to move forward. so maybe I would like to seize the opportunity of this occasion and of this session to call upon the organizations that can provide support for Africa, because it's not for a single country, but it's for all the African continent. And we hope that organizations like the WMO, for example, give support to the African Ministers' Council on Water in order to be able to share the data properly. If you allow me, I have also a couple of comments in this regard before giving back the floor to you. The groundwater data and information is a big black hole all over the continent. This black hole needs also more attention and more contribution for knowledge. Confidence and trust are key. And in order to do this, we can compare, for example, if we have on the transboundary level an umbrella like the SADC protocol, an inclusive umbrella having all the riparians under its control. If you have an inclusive umbrella or legal frameworks that includes all riparians, in this case, we are quite sure that we will provide timely and confident data to be shared. The sharing is not the issue now. It's having and willing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tahani. I think I won't try to capture all the richness of what you've just talked about, but I think two things stand out to me. Is one, coming back to the importance of partnerships, and that, you know, MCOW can have an incredible role to play as a platform in filling some of the gaps at the basin and the national level, but there's a really strong need for additional partnerships with WMO, with others, open source data provision, funders, and other partners to make sure that this is actually implemented effectively. And then you speak to my heart as a water lawyer when you say the enabling environment is really critical and key, and really thinking about, you know, where we saw originally, Komlan shared with us, you know, the scarcity of agreements actually across transboundary basins, and the even more scarce presence of data sharing agreements. And so thinking about what are the critical factors that go into those agreements, and creating the enabling environment that's necessary to build the trust and have the set of rules that we know will be followed by all of the riparians, and in an inclusive way, as you said, Dr. Tahani, that's really critical. So a round of applause for our panelists. Okay, and then, oh, you're gonna come now? Okay, please, hold on, I get to turn it over to Faith. And then I think we're going to open it up for some questions from the audience. So we should have a microphone coming around if you'd like to raise your hand. Please come forward. So thank you so much to this esteemed panel. We really appreciate your comments. Your experience is invaluable. We have so much to learn from you. And I wanted to engage the audience in a little fun exercise. I'm not sure what happened here. So at first I was thinking that, you know, I would take some notes and then I would impart upon you some concluding remarks and lessons learned, lessons that I learned. But actually, I think that's not as much fun as asking you what you think are the key takeaways, what questions you have to the panelists, and what haven't we touched on? What haven't we talked about? What did we miss here? So I'm going to open this up to you, our concluding remarks. It's, you know, kind of this next few minutes. We have 10 minutes or so to talk amongst ourselves and really bring up the most important points that we want to think about for the next session. In addition to that, I just want to draw your attention to the QR code. We would love to get your feedback on the session. And so we'll just take a few minutes of your time, and we really appreciate it. And so I'm going to open it up here to all of you. What have you learned? What are your key takeaways? And what did we miss?
Hello, yes, I'm Jean
Can you
Lapeg
please
from Action Against Hunger. I wanted to come back to the basics, which is the monitoring of the SDG 6. So we have two tools to monitor the SDG 6. It's the JMP and the GLASS. Today, the reporting percentage of countries that are reporting to those tools is 60%. What could be the sort of political dynamic or political model to improve this reporting? Because if we are not able to report on the basics of the SDG 6, I think it's going to be very difficult to engage country in reporting on transboundary water. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if this question was addressed to me or to any of the panelists, but I have a small reply for you. First of all, there is a problem in how we monitor SDG 6 because each SDG part of the SDG 6 is the responsibility of an organization. For example, SDG 6.5.2 is with the UNICEF, while another 5.1 is elsewhere. So inside the reporting system of SDG 6, there is some inclarity. So I think that one of the key elements that can avoid this is to have focal points from the country. And these focal points will be engaged in the reporting. For example, in Egypt, it is the census, how we say it, the CAPMAS, which is responsible of sharing all the information regarding SDG 6 to gather them from the country and to deliver them. So having focal points, reliable focal points is very important, I think, in order to have this. And also we need to harmonize at the UN level. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any of the other panelists want to say anything? We have another question over here.
Okay. It's okay? Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Silet, for your good presentation, intervention. I really appreciate it. But as you said...
Sorry, can you briefly introduce yourself?
I beg your pardon?
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Mohamed Hussein Ibrahim. I am Regional Hydrological Advisor for CA, WMO Regional Hydrological Advisor. And also I am chair of Hydrological Water Coordination Panel. Okay, I said that, as you said, the main issues is not maybe the data sharing. The issues is the data availability. Okay? The data availability. We have many issues with collection. As you see, in many states, we don't have. But for me, the main solution is how to improve data collection, how to improve the data availability. how to improve the infrastructure to collect the data. We have lack of infrastructure. We need to modernize our data network. And my question is how to improve the data availability. We need to think about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Perhaps Engineer Sakarayun, you could address this question and then, oh, you need to go, okay. All right, let's give a quick round of applause for Dr. Tahani as she has to go to other pressing engagements. Thank you so much for being with us. So, Engineer Sakarayun, maybe you could address some of this with some of the lessons from the successes that you've had, but also the gaps that you were speaking of earlier.
Thank you very much. First of all, about the data availability, if you ask me to rank the priorities, I will rank it like this. First is the political will or the trust to share the data. Second, we don't want to share any data. We don't want to share the reliable data and the relevant data. This is very important. Coming to the availability or filling of the gaps, I think this, there is many success stories in the region for hydrometeorological networking, for the rivers or for the rainfall or other things. I think this, there is a standard in WMO for the data collection, either for meteorological stations or for flow stations. And also there is manuals also by WMO for practicing of the hydrological monitoring. So I think WMO can help well if you first assess what is the problem. Is it you don't have enough stations? You don't have capacity for the people to collect the data or whatever. But the solution is there. The collection of data or filling of the gap, I think this come not the first priority. But you have first to assess what is the gap you need. Is it stations? Is it people to collect data? Is it fund or what? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So important. A call out to WMO to help set the standards, help engage the people who need to be at the table, and reaching out to those who normally aren't, so we get diverse voices and perspectives. But a tall task for WMO, and luckily we will hear from WMO in the next part two of this session. I wanted Betty to ask you about this question on data collection and how might we engage the community to help with data collection. Is that feasible even?
Thank you very much, Faith. How we involve community in collection data? We do train. We call them climate weather champions. We train them how to, the terminologies we use, so they reach the ground, they reach the last mile community, get the information, then we get a feedback. And another innovation we've come up about is we've created an SOP in that we have a channel flow of information to have a feedback from the last mile from the consumer to the producer. That's what we have come up with.
Thank you so much, Betty. Really was hoping to hear from more, so maybe we can have some conversations over the break, which is right now. And we'd love to get a group picture if you are willing and able. We have been taking pictures throughout, but maybe we can get together in the front of the room and face that way so we can get someone to take a picture. So whoever wants to join us for a photo, this is just the beginning of this conversation on water data diplomacy. You are now all a part of that conversation. We thank you for joining us, and we really hope you will come back for more conversation and sharing your experiences with each other for part 2. Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists and, of course, to our partners.